Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I got a whole big thing on Trump to do. He's really embracing the Cubies. But let's start here with the celebrity stuff. Grayson Chance says Ellen DeGeneres completely abandoned him after discovering him as a child. Now, this easily could have went on. Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies. So the guy performed a YouTube video that went viral, Lady Gaga's Paparazzi. And Ellen invited him to appear on Ellen's show, said in a new interview that he felt trauma over the way the host treated him. I never met someone more manipulative, more self-centered, and more blatantly opportunistic than her. Chance, who's now 25, was just 12 when he became the buzz of the internet. DeGeneres called a week later and took the first plane ride from Oklahoma to Los Angeles, and DeGeneres assured him and his mother, Lisa, that they were going to do this together. Well, you don't want to take that guy. The A-list star, who is now making a foray into the music business, hooked Chance up with an entire team of people, and most importantly, signed him to her new music label, which was distributed by Geffen Records. But Chance told the magazine that DeGeneres became domineering and way too controlling. She would yell at stylists, berate people in front of me, and say, "This is what you're wearing on the show." She was just degrading to people. Well, we know that from all the stuff we saw with her staff. Apparently, she wouldn't let him wear leather because she was a vegan. In 2012, when Ellen was still on the air, Chance's second album bombed and ticket sales declined. He was dropped by the record label and by his team. That's when he said that DeGeneres completely abandoned him and wouldn't return his calls. And so I couldn't get a hold of her. I couldn't talk to her. Whenever I'd come to the show, it was such a fake smile. Okay, so that happened. Ellen's a bad person, which we already knew. Pentagon opens sweeping review of clandestine psychological operations. This is from the Washington Post. Complaints about the U.S. military's influence operations using Facebook and Twitter have raised concern in the White House and federal agencies. The Pentagon has ordered a sweeping audit of how it conducts clandestine information warfare after major social media companies identified and took offline fake accounts suspected of being run by the U.S. military in violation of the platform's rules. Colin Kahl, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, last week instructed the military commands that engage in psychological operations online to provide a full accounting of their activities by next month, after the White House and some federal agencies expressed mounting concerns over the Defense Department's attempted manipulation of audiences overseas, according to several defense and administrative officials familiar with the matter. Well, we've known this, and Washington Post, which sucks, did a article maybe 15 years ago, long time ago, at least 10, about how there was these major hubs and they just had employees for the Homeland Security Department who were just trolling. They were just hired, hundreds of thousands of them, right? And that was the Washington Post, so it's not even like, And so one of those groups, one of those fake accounts, is to do with the Cubies, right? Q is more than likely, like I'm 99.99% sure, that Q is a governmental official, which has been borne out. I said this a long time ago. Many people said it, and now it looks like that's the case. QAnon fans celebrate Donald Trump's latest embrace of the conspiracy.
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much.
And so that was from April of 2020. And there are two choices here. And both of them are horrible for Trump. Either he's blatantly lying. He knew exactly what Q was. And he didn't want to embrace it because he knew it was fake. He knew it at some point would blow up in his face. But he didn't want to lose their support, so he pretended not to know what they were. Or the other choice is he legitimately did know who they were. And that was like blatant incompetence. As a sitting president and with this growing deceptive movement that was known throughout the media, was being used against him, and it was destroying the truth community. It was a cancer on the frickin' truth community, right? Or a frickin' cancer on the truth community, which I'm going to really get into later in the video. How bad it sucked for all of us. Like, Q is a loss for us and ultimately for Trump because it's fake, right? And I'll get into that because everyone should know by now it's fake. I don't know why I even have to say it like there's some doubt in people's minds. But also, it is, I would be shocked if it wasn't run by some three-letter agency, as they call it, right? As the Trumpers call it. And so it's being run by the very people that Trump claims to be attacking him and the people who are the enemies. I mean, that's an enemy of these people, right? If it's run by NSA or CIA or something, or the FBI, probably not the FBI. But these are the agencies that the QBs are always attacking, and Trump is. I mean, right now. And so him denying them, but saying, whatever, some positive things about him, but saying I don't really know that much about him, is either a show of him being completely incompetent and the people running his campaign completely incompetent, or, he's lying, right? And both are bad.
Former President Trump has long flirted with QAnon, but this illustrated meme he reshared last week with QAnon slogans and a Q on his lapel is one of his most brazen endorsements of the conspiracy theory.
This is Donny the Leprechaun O'Sullivan, who used to be featured quite a bit with Brian Stelza, who no longer has a job at CNN. I don't want to minimize how bad Trump sucks here, but I have to crap on CNN as well. So Donny is like the conspiracy theorists of conspiracy theorists, right? They employ the same tactics and present the information in the same way. Like, he's a QAnon Trump truther. Like, he does deep diving. He goes down the rabbit hole of Trump and QAnon and attempts to prove they're fraudulent. It isn't hard because Q sucks and Trump's a dope. And so, and I'm going to get into it, you Trumpers, because, this is a major fail on Trump's part. But Donny here is being a truther. Like, he says he's anti-conspiracy theorist, but he's being a conspiracy theorist. These are conspiracies. QAnon's a conspiracy. The QBs are conspiracies. Are conducting a conspiracy, as is Trump, right? And, so he's a conspiracy theorist.
Even President Donald J. Trump put that on there. A guy wearing a Q pin, storm is upon us, patriots are in control.
Hosts on this QAnon radio show celebrating.
And that is the reason that you are all here, because you know the truth. You all know who Donald Trump really is. You all know who the fight is really about and who the players are that actually want to destroy our country.
See, why this sucks is the QBs, who have been a disaster for all of us, and they've been annoying, and they've just sucked, right? And those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. I've experienced it. I'm going to get into it at the end of the video. But what's happened here is, after the big event in January of 2020, when the Trumpers imploded and Trump imploded and all that stuff happened, and Trump got completely worked, and everyone realized he lost, which meant all the QB stuff was false, right? I mean, the QBs were wrong. Q was wrong so much, and QBs just kept on moving the goalposts. I'm going to put my Great Pumpkin meme at the end of this little voiceover here, so one of my better memes. But what the QBs couldn't deny anymore was how much Trump was wrong. And so he was hemorrhaging. They were hemorrhaging. So when I used to make fun of the QBs, I'd always get some pushback from some of the QBs. And then every once in a while, someone would post where one goes one goes all, all these various things. The storm is coming, or they say something about, some QB thing, right? And so that was a regular event all the way up to 2020 January. And then it just stopped. They disappeared because they all, were embarrassed, and the whole thing blew up in their faces. And so now that Trump has re-truthed this, and you're going to see it more with some of these other QBs they show you here, is that it's reinvigorated them. because now they think Trump is coming around and there's a second chance and, all this stuff is part of the plan, all these things, trust the plan, all this stuff. And they're coming back, and that just sucks for everybody. And Trump is encouraging it. And it's bad for him. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for the Cubies. It's bad for the country. Let's go to the Great Pumpkin meme here.
Dear Great Pumpkin, I'm looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night.
So first he takes a hit off the hopium pipe.
Pumpkin patch, and you'll see the Great Pumpkin with your own eyes.
And then he tries to get his bitch hooked on hopium.
Sitting in a pumpkin patch with a blockhead. You owe me restitution!
Then his bitch realizes she's in love with a hopium addict and she wants her Skittles. She's been cheated out of her Skittles. And now his sister, who sees that her hopium addict's brother is strung out on hopium, has to go and retrieve him from the pumpkin patch.
I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, too. Stupid? What do you mean, stupid?
You sat in a pumpkin patch all night long waiting for a pumpkin man to rescue you. It's high on hopium, and he never came. That's what we mean by stupid.
Just wait till next year, Charlie Brown. You'll see. Next year at this same time, I'll find a pumpkin patch that is real sincere.
But after all the evidence has been presented that the Great Pumpkin, doesn't exist, is not going to save you, still in denial, lashing out, angry, waiting for the next hit off the hopium pipe.
On Trump's social media platform, QAnon followers saw the president's post as a clear sign he is with them and with QAnon. One post read, "At this point, anyone denying that Q was a legit operation affiliated with the Trump administration is in major denial." Another read, "At Real Donald Trump has over 4 million followers, yet he seeks out Q people to retruth."
This is what I was talking about, right? These QBs always need validation because what they're following is stupid and obviously an operation of the government, right? Of the intelligence community. The 3-letter agencies. They're being worked. Trump's being worked now as well by the very people that they are believing are in the deep state. The Q messages, the ones that are up in 4chan, the Q drops, come from the deep state and are working these people and moving them in a direction that they can use against the rest of us. And so, the rest of us in the so-called truth community and all the Republicans. And they keep on falling for it. And so they need validation. They're so desperate for confirmation what they're doing is real because the things never come true. And Trump has always been an opportunist. Trump was more of a Democrat than a Republican for years. He gave money to the Clintons. He just played both sides. He's a typical billionaire. He's not a man of the people. He throws people under the bus. He's all about Trump. He treats his workers poorly and all that stuff, right? And he'll use communities. He used Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a part of it. He used Breitbart, all that stuff. He'll pretend he believes what you believe. He says things like this all the time. He knows how to get people to think that he's a part of it, right? But he clearly isn't. Before he said he didn't even know who you are. And that was in January of the, a big important election. And now he's saying, hey, I'm into you, right?
What we've seen recently from Trump is different from what we've seen in the past. Prior to this, he would say he's heard of these QAnon people. He believes them to be great patriots. Now the message is directly one-to-one. It's no longer ambiguous.
I think this could be Donnie O'Sullivan's soulmate here.
Well, certainly we are concerned about the QAnon phenomenon.
The FBI has warned of the dangers of QAnon and its potential to inspire violence.
What we have is a former president, potential candidate for the presidency of the United States, legitimizing what's, in essence, a cult.
QAnon has been associated with bizarre claims about cabals and child.
So, one of my biggest problems with QBs, and if you're a QB, you should understand this, is that many of us fleshed out some of the narratives that you have perverted and made ridiculous so that we can't talk about it anymore. all the stuff to do with this, all these symbols, the man boy love symbol and the girl lover, which came from the FBI. You guys have used these things in a way to make them ridiculous. And now people can't talk about this anymore because you'll either be censored or dismissed because of the QBs wrecking it with their stupidity. I'm going to get back into this at the end.
Sacrifice, but the slogans and symbols of QAnon have now become intertwined with Trump's lies about a stolen election.
I go to a lot of Trump rallies. I see a lot of people wearing QAnon t-shirts. It doesn't mean they're all necessarily violent or dangerous, does it?
Does not. And that's the most difficult law enforcement scenario to deal with, because you wanted to identify threats amongst these hundreds, sometimes thousands of people.
Remember when Trump made his big announcement for running for president, and he came down on the escalator and he said that immigrants for the most part were criminals and drug dealers and terrorists and things like this. And they said some of them probably are good people, right? And everybody hammered him for being racist and these things. But they've just said the same thing about QBs, right? QBs are, all of these things there. But, some of them might be not violent, right? And for the most part, none of them are. It's a small percentage. The rest of them are just criminally stupid.
Trump delivered some of his speech Saturday in Youngstown, Ohio, to a backing track.
We are a nation that is no longer respected or listened to around the world. We are a nation that in many ways has become a joke.
That music you hear sounds identical to a song associated with QAnon. While it played, the crowd all pointed their fingers in unison toward the sky.
The imagery of everybody, their heads bowed with their finger pointed in the air, showing the number 1. This is where meme wars are most potent, because for some people, they were seeing that reflected in the QAnon meme, where we go one, we go all. Others were seeing America first be reflected.
These people are spending God knows how much time studying QBs and their ways. Right? I can't imagine can you imagine investing that much and, crapping all over QBs when it's just, it's easy to point out their flaws. But they are, conspiracy theorists. They're QB truthers. And they have to find easy targets so they can demean the people, independent people like myself, that are becoming the place where people hear about the news or whatever it is, right? And this is a comedy channel. There's many people like me. Independent voices, which all of you know, right? And CNN can't compete because they suck, right? And so they have to come up with these types of, dire, these people are going to ruin our country type of proclamations. It's the same stuff that Trump says. It's the same plan that Trump uses and the right-wing people like Alex Jones using fear and using, these types of smear campaigns to, promote their crappy, unwatchable content.
The Trump team denied the music was a QAnon song.
It was played. And to the people who are listening, that's a siren song. Even if it was an accident, it becomes the perception. And it's easy to counter that. Whereas the no, that's not what I meant. No, I do not support this group statement that you would expect from a viable candidate.
But Trump has never outright disavowed QAnon. Quite the opposite. He's instead endorsing candidates who have echoed the conspiracy theory, like Mark Finchem, the Republican candidate for Secretary of State in Arizona.
There's a lot of people involved in a pedophile network and the distribution of children. And unfortunately, there's a whole lot of elected officials that are involved in that.
At a fundraiser for Finchem this weekend, a performance of another QAnon song.
Did you say another?
Another QAnon song, named after the QAnon slogan, where we go one, we go all.
Now, people who are in Trump's orbit, in Trump world, are saying that, look, he's retweeting this stuff, he's reposting this stuff, he's not really giving any thought, he doesn't think about QAnon. But look, he has been asked multiple times to disavow this dangerous conspiracy. I mean, it's more than a theory now, it's really a movement. And he's refused to do that again and again.
He looks like Louis Anderson with a leprechaun hat on. All right, let's get to the other piece here. All right, so this is the Patriots in control, and on September 12th, this was tweeted, and then truthed, and they retruthed by by the Trumpster, right? And again, hijacking the whole truth movement, these lame MNFers. Here's a bigger version of it. And you can see here, there's the Q pin, there's the storm is coming, and where we go one, we go all. And he's looking off here, right? This whole, the narcissism there. But then this is covered by all kinds of people who are putting this out there. This is just a few of the many mainstream articles. Why is Trump openly embracing QAnon now? So you got to understand this. If the Democrats and the sucky CNN, and all these other people that suck are talking about your movement or an issue, it means that they think they're going to win that issue, right? Same thing with the Republicans and Trump. They talk about the things that they're going to win with. And sometimes both sides can talk about an issue because it is something that's a, sort of evenly divided issue. But the QBs isn't. The QBs is a small fringe group that regular Republicans, independent voters, and people in the truth community can't stand. It's a pest. It's a nuisance. And it just basically sucks, right? And it's been proven false, and it just won't go away. And Trump embracing this is him embracing the intelligence community he's supposed to be against, because he knows, as people should know, that this is coming from, the Q drops are coming from some form of the intelligence community. And Trump is embracing all that, embracing this stupidity, when he knows that it is, not true. And he knows that he's not a part of something. They have these whole stories about him, that he's a part of some, secret group of whatever, I forget the term now, that is out there fighting the deep state, right? JFK Jr. and Trump and some of these other people. And Trump knows that's not true. I mean, he said he didn't know who they were in 2020. And so how could he be one of those people, right? Because, they said that they have these secret meetings, and Q meets with Trump, and they're all part of the same club, and they're all working to get rid of the deep state. And the deep state is the Republicans and the Democrats. The deep state is the whole government. It's the whole society. Like, we're all part of it because we're all contributing to this evil system. It's an evil system across the board. You can't take the things that you like and say the things that you don't like are evil, but the things that you like are fine. That's what both sides do, and it's wrong and it's dishonest. And I just want to say, for me personally, when the QBs became a thing, and I would cover a subject, something like Tom Hanks, and my video would be reasonable and rational, and something that was, you couldn't slaughter it like the stuff that the QBs put out. It wasn't sensationalistic. It wasn't clickbait. It wasn't, over the top. I wasn't making accusations I couldn't prove. I would make a clear distinction between what was speculation and what was fact, and just talk about it in a reasonable way. But then there would be these other videos out there that would get, hundreds of thousands more views than my video because it was just complete crap and fodder for stupid people in the QBs, right? But on top of that, the QBs would show up and say, hey, you don't get it. Get with it, buddy. This is, you're not going deep enough. And I'm like, no, you're just mentally impaired, right? Like, I'm an OG, right, compared to these QBs. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen this stuff come and go. And, and I understand that what's going to happen. There's no changing the system. And so for them to show up constantly and berate me, some of them saying I was helping these, pervs because I wasn't getting on board with their craziness. And so it was not only annoying, but it ended up making the whole thing a joke. So when anybody talked about it, they would say, oh, you're one of those QBs. It made it easy to dismiss. And so all these things that they were saying they were fighting against, Now you can't even talk about it. Kids, the kids stuff, you can't talk about it. The pizza stuff, you can't talk about it. Partly because of they, were able to employ restrictions based in the stupidity of the QBs. You just handed it over to them, right? You gave them the crazy that they needed. They want to profile everybody who's not a mainstream journalist and not talking, doesn't accept the reality, the mainstream story as crazy. And the QBs and Alex Jones and Trump gave them all crazy. And Trump, will do anything and use anybody to further his own pursuits, but he'll throw you under the bus just as quick, like he already did. He threw you under the bus, on January 7th, right? Remember when he threw all the QBs under the bus and they were all stunned? But aren't you the second coming of Christ? Like, and so now they're coming back and Trump's encouraging it. So Trump sucks, right? Like I just if he's going to do this kind of stuff, then he's going to get as much from me as Biden does, right? Because he's just this is evil. What he's doing here is evil, and it hurts all of us. He should just go away. Either stand up and tell the truth. He brought in, the whole warp speed thing. He brought in all kinds of bad stuff. I mean, he was, the last 6 months of his presidency, and then after the election, Trump's character arc sucked, and he just became an annoying piece of crap. And now it's continuing. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.